Alright, before we can carry on, I want to correct my mistake. Alright, in the last video, I say dice A.face value here returns 5, right? But that's wrong, because dice A.roll here will give us a different face value, which we don't know. So dice A.face value on the next line will give unknown value. So depending on whether this roll give us 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Alright? So it will give the value according to the result of the roll here. Alright? This face value will depend on the roll result here. Alright? So that's what my mistake was. Sorry. And so let's carry on. Alright, before I actually cover the constructor, I want to mention one more thing. It's method overloading. Alright, in Java and in similar languages. When you write method, you can have method with the same name. Alright, you can have method with the same name. But the system will separate or will distinguish each one of these same name methods by looking at the method parameters. Alright? So it can distinguish between method add with 2 parameters and method add with 3 parameters. Alright? And if the 2 methods have the same number of parameters, they can be distinguished by looking at the data type of the parameters. For example, add with 2 ints can be distinguished by the system from add with 2 double. Alright? Well, just using method parameters number and parameter type to distinguish between methods to call. Alright? These things, the method name and number of parameters and the type of parameters are what we call method signature. Alright? And method signature is the thing that the system will use to identify which method to call. Alright? But you have to remember one thing. Alright? That, well, if you have method, let's say, I have method double add B, and I also have method, let's say, int like this. Then the system won't be able to distinguish between the 2. Alright, even though we can see that the 2 methods are different because they return different types of value. Alright, but the system will regard them as the same and cannot distinguish between them. If you write these 2 methods, then your program will not compile. Okay? Because the system just look at the name and the argument. So it just look at the name and the argument, and these 2 have the same name, the same number of argument, and the same types of argument. So the system will get confused and your program will not compile. Alright, so if you want to write method with the same name, then you should know that writing something like this will not work. Alright? By the way, methods with the same name that can be distinguished from one another by the system are called method overloading. Alright? Method overloading. Alright? So that's it about method. Alright? Let's carry on with constructor in the next video.